They were sisters bound by blood, yet divided by love. They lived under the same roof, shared the same family name, and were married to the same man. And yet, they were fighting a battle no one else could see. One was admired, desired, and deeply loved, yet her womb remained closed. The other was overlooked, unwanted, and quietly pushed aside. Yet God opened her womb and heard her cries. They were trapped in comparison, measuring their worth by affection, by children, by favor. Each sister longed desperately for what the other possessed. What should have been a home became a place of rivalry. Joy was brief. Pain was constant. And while they struggled for identity, validation, and love, God was quietly shaping a nation. This is not merely a story of romance or sibling rivalry. It is a story of rejection and longing. A story about the wounds comparison leaves behind. And a story about a God who sees those the world ignores. Their names were Rachel and Leah. And through their pain, God changed the course of history. The journey of Jacob. The sun was sinking low over the hills of Paddan Aram, when a weary traveler approached a well outside the city of Haran. That man was Jacob, son of Isaac, grandson of Abraham, and bearer of God's covenant promises. Though he was unmarried and traveling alone, Jacob was not a young man chasing adventure. He was already advanced in age, a reminder that God's plans often unfold later, and very differently than we expect. Jacob had fled from his home in Canaan as a fugitive. He had deceived his blind father and stolen the blessing meant for his brother Esau. Now Esau's anger burned fiercely, and Jacob feared for his life. So his mother, Rebekah, sent him away to her brother Laban, hoping distance would bring safety. After many exhausting days of travel, Jacob finally reached the land of the people of the east. On the outskirts of Haran, he came upon a well in an open field. Several flocks of sheep were resting nearby, waiting for the large stone that covered the well to be rolled away. It was customary for all the shepherds to gather before removing the stone. Jacob approached them and asked, "My brothers, where are you from?" "We are from Haran," they replied. "Do you know Laban, the son of Nahor?" Jacob asked eagerly. "Yes, we know him," they said. "Is he well?" Jacob asked. "He is well," they answered. "And look, here comes his daughter Rachel with the sheep." Rachel at the well. Jacob looked up. And in that moment, everything changed. Walking toward them was a young woman leading her father's flock. Scripture tells us she was beautiful in form and appearance. Her presence seemed to brighten the landscape around her. Rachel's eyes reflected life, youth, and confidence. They sparkled like stars against the desert sky. In that instant, something deep stirred within Jacob's heart, a love that would define the rest of his life. When Rachel approached the well, Jacob was overcome with emotion and a sudden surge of strength. Without waiting for the other shepherds, he stepped forward and single-handedly rolled away the massive stone that normally required several men to move. He watered Laban's flock. Then, realizing she was family, the daughter of his uncle, Jacob kissed Rachel and wept aloud. These were not tears of weakness, but of relief in destiny. He had found his mother's people, and he had found love. Jacob told Rachel that he was her father's relative, the son of Rebekah. She ran to tell Laban. When Laban heard the news, he ran to meet Jacob, embraced him, kissed him, and welcomed him into his home. It was there in Laban's household that Jacob would meet Rachel's older sister. Her name was Leah, the unchosen daughter. Scripture introduces Leah with a single defining detail. Leah had weak eyes, but Rachel was beautiful in form and appearance. The Hebrew phrase used to describe Leah's eyes does not necessarily mean illness. It suggests softness, dullness, or lack of sparkle. Perhaps her eyes were gentle rather than captivating. Perhaps they lacked the youthful brilliance that drew attention. Whatever the exact meaning, the contrast is intentional. Rachel was everything Leah was not perceived to be: beautiful, desired, admired. Leah, though the firstborn, learned early what it meant to come second. She lived in her younger sister's shadow, watching Rachel receive the attention, the praise, and eventually, the love she herself longed for. Leah did not stun observers with outward beauty. Rachel did. And from the very beginning, Leah's worth was measured against her sister. 7 years for love. Jacob stayed with Laban and worked for him. After about a month, Laban said, "Because you are my relative, should you serve me for nothing? Tell me, what should your wages be?" Jacob did not hesitate. "I will serve you 7 years for Rachel, your younger daughter." 7 years. Not 7 weeks. Not 7 months. 7 years of exhausting labor under the scorching Mesopotamian sun. 7 years of rising before dawn to lead sheep to pasture. 7 years of sleeping on hard ground, facing wild animals, sandstorms, and freezing desert nights. And yet, Scripture tells us those 7 years seemed like only a few days to Jacob, because of the love he had for her. Love has a way of making time feel light. The wedding night deception. When the 7 years were completed, Jacob went to Laban and said, "Give me my wife, for my time is completed." Laban gathered the people and prepared a great wedding feast. There was food, wine, music, and celebration. But as night fell and darkness covered the camp, Laban carried out a deception that would alter every life involved. Brides were heavily veiled, and wedding ceremonies took place at night. Taking advantage of these customs, Laban brought Leah, not Rachel, into Jacob's tent. And Jacob, trusting his uncle and clouded by celebration, lay with her. She became his wife. Leah's silent night. Scripture does not tell us what Leah felt that night, but we can imagine. A woman who had lived her entire life feeling second best. A woman who had watched the man she may have quietly loved long for her sister for 7 years. Did she feel guilt? Fear? Hope that this marriage might finally make her chosen? We are not told. A tragedy was unfolding. When morning came and light filled the tent, Jacob looked at the woman beside him and was shocked. It was Leah.